going to make some chicken and dumplings, and this is what we're going to need. Alright, this is what we're going to need. Now, chicken and dumplings is made in 2 phases. And I've got it broke down so that you can get a better idea of what we're doing. This side right here, all of these ingredients here, they have to do with making the stock that we're going to use to make the chicken and dumplings. Everything on this side is what we're going to use to make the dumplings themselves. We got our chicken, we got our celery, our onions, we've got our salt, we've got our pepper, we've got some milk, we've got some flour, and we've got some butter. But over here we also have flour, we have vegetable shortening, we have milk again, salt and pepper again. Now, even though at the end of the video there's detailed directions and a list of ingredients, I wanted to point out that there's 2 separate processes going on. So that you understand, we're using flour for 2 different things. We're using milk, and salt and pepper. While it may seem like I'm being oversimplistic, everybody can't cook. Everybody doesn't have the natural ability to cook, but everybody can learn to cook. I learned a long time ago, if somebody asks me what's my favorite food so they can cook it, I'm not going to make a choice. I'm going to say, what is it you like to cook? Because that's what they're going to cook well. They've learned to cook that. I got an education on that. I went to a friend's house who had a new girlfriend, and after we got back from fishing, she was going to cook dinner. She asked him what did he want her to cook. So he asked me, what's your favorite meal? At that time I said chicken and dumplings, and that was a mistake, because although I love them, she didn't know how to cook them. We showed up, we walked into the kitchen, and I thought she had changed her mind, because I saw a box of chicken from a fast food place. I love fried chicken, and I figured that's what we're going to eat. And as I'm looking at this chicken thinking this is going to be what we eat, she starts telling us to, make ourselves comfortable. She was still in the process of cooking. That should have been a cue right there to me. She's cooking. This fried chicken was already cooked. So she brings out a can of biscuits. And that got my attention. Those biscuits was going to be what we eat, I guess, with the chicken. So I'm just watching and talking and, just kind of, visiting. And she put on a boiler of water and started breaking the fried chicken up into that water. And that was disappointing, because I really did want some of that chicken. But I'm curious now. She's breaking this fried chicken up, skin and all, into this boiling water. And then she opened up the can of biscuits and started breaking the biscuits into pieces and dropping them into the boiling water with the boiling fried chicken. And then she began to pour some flour into that water, then some salt and pepper. I had to sit down and pretend that this was edible. That was not chicken and dumplings. That was boiled biscuits and wet fried chicken floating around in water and flour. Now, we're going to make some real, honest to goodness chicken and dumplings. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is take that whole chicken and cut it into pieces. And if you don't have a whole chicken and you just want to use some thighs or breast, you can, or legs, because it doesn't matter. It's all coming off the bone anyway. So we've cut this chicken into pieces, and we're just going to put them in our pot. That's the first thing to go in. Alright, now that our chicken's in the pot, we'll move on. Okay, now I want to say, you really want to limit the places that your chicken touches. Raw chicken you need to clean up really well wherever it touches, because you can end up with food poisoning, and you don't want cross-contamination. Salmonella is a pretty nasty little situation. So now with our chicken in the pot, we're going to take our celery, and I've chopped up a lot of it already, but it's real simple. We're going to just chop up the little pieces, and for those of you that may notice, I got a black cutting board. The white one just wasn't working. I experimented with several colors, and I really like this one. It's nice and thick. Now you want to cut this celery up fairly small. It's going to cook down, because this is basically for our stock, and when we're done, it's going to really cook down really good in there. So we're going to add our celery in here. Next, we're going to add our onion. Now you're going to take a whole onion and you're going to chop it up into these little small pieces, because like the celery, it's going to cook down in the stock as well. Alright, we're going to put our onion in the pot. We're going to put our salt. And we're going to put our pepper. Alright, then we're going to start pouring some water, covering that chicken. Because what we're going to do is we're going to boil this, and that chicken is going to come off of that bone. We're going to debone that chicken. And then we're going to add some more water. And we're going to keep adding water until we cover the chicken and put enough in there, because a lot of this water is going to evaporate out. We'll end up adding probably a little bit more, but we want this to really be covered. We want it to boil, and we're going to boil. We're going to bring it to a boil, and then we're going to bring it down to a low boil, and we're going to do that probably for an hour and a half, and we want to have enough water in there. We're going to just stir it around. Get our little salt and pepper all mixed up. We're going to cover this, and we're going to put it on to boil. Alright, it's been about an hour and a half, and our chicken's ready. We're going to start taking the chicken out, and we're going to put it over here in this bowl where it can cool. And when it gets cool enough, we're going to pick all the meat off the bones. Put it back in here. Yes. Right. Get it all out. And this is the point that we're going to be hearing from our little chef. Prissy is not going to stand for all this chicken being moved around and permeating the air without her being involved. I don't see her, but I hear her. Ah, she's over there. Okay, but she is watching. You'll hear her making those little noises, her little begging. If you hear strange sounds, that's her. Right, get all the skin out, all the meat. Here we go. Yeah, there she is. Been through this so many times. All right, we're gonna let this chicken cool and we're gonna start working on the rest of it. All right, we're getting ready to make our dough for our dumplings. Now this is not boiled biscuits. We're gonna make a dough specifically for dumplings. Biscuits have yeast and stuff in it that if you put biscuit dough like from a can, or if you make biscuit dough thinking that'll work, you're going to end up with dumpling soup, because that's going to break up and it's going to come apart in the water. So what we're going to do is we're going to specifically make it for dumplings. So we're going to pour our flour in a big mixing bowl. We're going to add some salt. Like I said in the directions at the end of the videos, the amounts. We're going to add some pepper. This way our dumplings will be seasoned, and you're not going to have just seasoned juice and then you're biting into bland squares of dough. And I think that's where most dumplings fall short. It's the dumplings don't have any taste. Well, these dumplings are going to have taste, and the stock is going to have taste. Okay. Next, we're going to put our vegetable shortening in here, and then we're going to add our milk. We're going to start stirring it around, kind of get that all mixed up. And we're going to be cutting this shortening all up in there. Yes, indeed, this is going to be good. Now when we get it all mixed up and cut and a little dry, I'm going to go ahead and mix it with hand. I just don't want to stick my hand in there until that milk is really absorbed in this, so I don't have it all over the place. Alright, that's looking good. Now we can start working it with our hands. I'm just cutting it and breaking it. And I'm trying to work that shortening. It's 100% vegetable shortening. It's Crisco. You just mix it all up in there real good. Use the right amount of the ingredients, it comes out right. So kind of just knead it. Just knead it real good. And it's just going to come out of this bowl so we can turn it into dumplings. We're going to work it real good here so it don't just go all over the place. I'll be sweeping it up for a day if I don't. Yeah, this is what we're trying to accomplish right here. By the time it comes out of this bowl, it's not going anywhere. All right, now you can see I've got a little bit of flour here on the side. I'm going to put it all on my cutting board here. All right, And this is basically the way it should look. Alright, now we're going to take a little flour and kind of put it on our rolling pin so that the dough don't stick to it. And we're going to take and put a little dough, a little flour on top, kind of move it around, and we're going to start rolling it out. Now this part, we want this to be really thin. See, it wants to move around. But we're going to make this dough really flat, really thin. No, you can't have none. She wants whatever's being cooked. I hear you. She just feels like this is so unfair. We're just going to keep working this dough. We're going to get it really thin. Some of that flour will go off the edge there. And I'm going to keep working this till it gets really, really thin. Dump some of this flour here. Move that out of the way. Just keep working. The thinner, the better. Don't do it thin, you'll end up with really fat dumplings because they'll swell. And we want thin dumplings. Alright, now what I'm fixing to do, I'm fixing to cut this in half and get this out of my way so I can work this. Chrissy is sure wanting her some dumplings. I hear you, baby girl. Alright, we're going to put this one in half. When I say we're looking for thin, I really mean thin. You want to get up here and help Daddy? I know you would. Alright. I want to really just keep working this. See how pretty that's starting to look? Alright, now that is thin. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this bowl here, and we're going to start cutting these into little pieces, and just putting them in there. Flour all up in there. But this is the trick to the dumplings right here. Thin. And a lot of people will be tempted when you're working it to put a little more liquid on it. Just keep rolling it, and working it, and you will end up with perfect dumplings. thin is the key. I'm telling you, I don't know how well this camera's picking up, but these things are probably, I mean, not even an eighth of an inch thick. They're about as thin as a tortilla shell. And no, don't use a tortilla shell. This is chicken and dumplings, not chicken and boiled tortilla shells. All right. I would normally cut a bunch of this out, but it's important enough I'm leaving it so people can see exactly how we're doing this. And unless, I guess you figured out by now, and if you hadn't, I'll tell you. You wonder sometimes why people make videos. I've watched people on bicycles jump, make videos of them jumping garbage cans and end up with their face in the garbage can. And I have to ask myself, why did they do that? Did they just want everybody to know that they're stupid? I don't know. But I can tell you why I make videos. I understand that these days, people don't have time to cook. People eat out a lot. But that's not always the best thing, because it's expensive. And if you're newly married and you're on a budget, you might want to cook. And the problem is, with everybody working and trying to raise their kids, there's a lot of people that have grown up that simply wasn't exposed to a lot of cooking at home. They know that McDonald's is down the road. So I kind of want to show people, how to cook, and I don't take anything for granted. I don't just assume anybody knows anything. That's why I kind of try to explain everything. We're getting there. But you can save a lot of money, eat healthier, and be happier cooking at home. All right, we're going to take this piece over here, and we're going to start working it. Not too far from being done. And don't try to do this all in one rolling. It's just too much. I would have to cover this whole counter here. And so just cut it like I did. Just work it in sections. Okay, now see that this one's really thin. So we'll work this one. And this is just a regular pizza cutter. And if they're sticking together when you're trying to handle them, you probably had your dough too wet. A little, little flour on them will make them be able to handle. But that's not the key. The key is don't have that dough wet. You saw it was really dry when I was working it. And if you follow these directions, I have worked on these amounts to get them right, so that it's the exact amount of flour, it's the exact amount of milk. So a lot of preparation goes into making a video, and you don't just turn the camera on and make some dumplings. You make sure you know what you're doing. And over the course of time, I've really worked on the dumplings. I've literally, my family can tell you, I made dumplings on on a regular basis for a month or two. It was almost every other day, and till I got it just perfect. I can tell you this, I was making dumplings that I had no intention of eating. I was carrying them, different family members, saying, here, eat these and tell me what you think of these, and trust me, my family has no problem in saying, this tastes terrible, or hey, you could have done a little better with this. So they're great critics, great critics. Matter of fact, the thinness of this is a direct result of my mother. I made her some and she said they're too thick. You don't make dumplings that thick, and over the years I have worked on this, getting them thin. And you can see the salt in the, well, you can't see the salt, but you can see the pepper all up in here, and it's just dotted through there. I don't know if y'all can hear that in the background. That's Prissy. She is whining and trying to get my attention. If I didn't have flour on my hands, I'd turn the camera around and y'all will see how pitiful she is. She says, I'm not just a chef, I'm a customer. I love to eat. Oh, I hear you. I used to try to cook when she wasn't around, but I gave up because she is not going to be far away from what's happening. She can be sound asleep, and I can walk in this kitchen and turn around and she scares me because I don't know how she got there so fast and silently. I see you over there. When I go to deboning that chicken, don't be surprised if she don't start howling. I'm warning you now, and I'm not going to redo this video because of her. She can just howl. Alright, here's our last piece. I forget what it was I was making. It could have been the dressing. I had to refilm several parts because while I was working with the chicken, she would literally jump on my leg and bark. And I would stop filming, edit that part out, but I'm not doing that anymore. If she wants to bark, if she wants to whine, that's her ability. She can do that. I'm just not fighting it anymore. Alright, this is the last one. It's rolled out. It's just a matter of cutting it out. And they don't have to be perfect. By the time they boil and simmer and cook, they're going to take all kind of shapes. Alright, here we go. Now, when I'm deboning the chicken, I'll have her a little bowl out. I'll have to give her some. I just cannot stand to not give her some because I'm a softie and she has me wrapped around her finger. So, I mean, right now she's whining and she don't realize what she's whining for. I know she's not going to eat this, so I'm not worrying about it. But when I do the chicken and she can clearly smell it, she's going to have to get a piece or two. Alright, let me clean this up a little bit and we'll move on. Alright, now we're going to debone our chicken, and this is really simple. What we're going to do is we're going to take it, any pieces we don't want, we're going to throw over there. We're just going to just take meat off, and we're kind of feeling in there. I don't want any gristle or anything like that. This is the wing, and you know. Now the skin, that is a personal preference. I like to break the skin up and put it in there, but if you don't, put it in that bowl. Cooking is about doing it the way you want it, and it coming out good enough that other people eat it too. I don't necessarily cook for other people. I cook, I guess I feel like if I like it, everybody like it. So I cook for myself, and if, you know, everybody else likes it, they can get a plate full too. So, but I personally like the skin in it, and put there. And I'm telling you, it's like I don't make this stuff just to be making a video. If you're familiar with my videos, you know I have a video on potato salad. Well, yesterday I picked up the red potatoes, and sometime today I'm going to make that potato salad. I cook what I like. So these dumplings are it's no different. And guess who's here? All right, we're gonna take care of her. All right, here you go. Let me get you a little piece of chicken. We'll break it up, and oh my goodness, somebody is gonna be happy. All right, so she's down there chomping down. The problem is she's going to be bothering me for more, and I'm not going to give her a whole lot, because I learned a lesson about that. And I went and I bought a big package. When I say big, I'm going to show you. It's probably this big, several pounds of those little cocktail sausages. You hear down there moving that bowl around? And these are those little cocktail sausages like you see at weddings. And I bought that big old pack, and I took a slow crock pot, and I put them in barbecue sauce, and I mean, I just love them. Problem is, there was so many of them, and I was the only one eating them. I kind of got sick of them really quick. I didn't want any more, and she was doing what she's doing right now, whining, and this was, you know, sausage is good for dogs, I thought. And so I took a bunch of them, and when I say a bunch, I mean the rest of them. And I just rinsed all the barbecue sauce off, and I sit there and I forget what I hear you. I forget what I was doing, but whatever it was I was doing, I just was slowly but surely feeding her those sausage. And the plan was she would get full and she would go away. She eventually did get full, and before the night was over, we was at the vet with an emergency, and vets aren't cheap at night. All right, you get one more piece. So they took and any of you people out there that's familiar with vets or work for them, you'll know what I'm talking about. They took a vial of her blood, and there was this, it looked like white wax all on the top of it. I mean, just floating. And they had to keep her, and I forget what they called that. It was some kind of something that she had gotten from eating all that sausage. It put fat, too much fat in her blood, and she had to stay up there at the vet, and they had to do whatever it is they do. That bill cost me so much money that I'm real cautious of what I do feed her. I feed her a little bit of chicken, but it's only a couple of pieces. But she does know how to work me, but I'm not going to give it to her in excess like that time. But, oh, you are so pitiful. Oh my goodness. And This is why Prissy became part of the videos. I just couldn't get around her. And she just, I used to try to put her in the room, and then she would go to howl, and she cannot stand a closed door. Oh my goodness. You have a closed door, she is going to just have a fit. And she has done some funny things. But all I'm doing is just breaking this meat up and keeping out what I don't want in there, making sure there's nothing, no bones or anything. With these wings, everybody hears you. Little demanding thing. She is spoiled. Spoiled rotten. And I'm so glad I told y'all about her, because I'm not stopping, and she's just to start jumping on my leg and just throwing a fit. And I'm not going to just sit here and feed her all this chicken. And I know there'll be some that say, oh my God, he's feeding the dog while he's cooking. Well, I'm not touching her or her plate. I'm kind of holding the meat above it and just dropping it down. So I am practicing good hygiene. All right, you get one more before it hits the bowl, and I'm dropping it about 6 inches above her, so she can't jump up and touch my hand. She's on it. And I hope y'all noticed in the earlier picture, she has a bow on her chef hat now. From one of the comments Jessica made on the gumbo video, that Prissy would look good with the little bow in her hair. So shout out to Jessica. That was her idea, and I'm probably gonna get different colored bows. No, chef. You're a cook. You're not eating right now. You just ate. But there we go. This is the last piece. So we got through this. Oh, I just put the wishbone in that bowl, and I bet I know what you would wish for. Yeah. There's no doubt. Everybody knows what you would wish for. Okay, all right. The only thing left in this bowl is a few little celeries and a little piece of chicken. All right, and we have our chicken deboned. All right, I wanted to get a close-up of this. Isn't this the neatest idea? When I'm cooking over there on the stove, which is where I cook most of the stuff, I have to have my back to the camera. I block the camera. I have to reach in front of it, and I have to move things around. It's really inconvenient, so I came up with this idea. It was really Prissy's idea, but I'm going to claim it. I would cook it over there on the stove, and when it come time to demonstrate what we're doing, or something I want you to see, I had this little single burner here. And what it does, if you look, it's a little burner. And I can cook from right here. And I don't have to move everything around and block the camera. So with that, if you think it's a great idea, put that in the comments. Okay, I really do like this little burner here. Really wasn't expensive at all. I think I paid like $12 for it at Walmart. It's just really neat. Okay, now what I've done is I've taken some butter and I've melted it, just melted it in the microwave, and I'm going to pour this butter in there. And this here is simmering. It's at a real low boil. Now I've got flour here and I've got milk. I'm going to add the milk next, and that'll cool it down a little bit. And that's fine. It's going to heat right back up. Now we're going to add this flour. Now this flour is going to thicken this. It's going to turn it from a chicken broth water to a light gravy for our dumplings. Okay, now one of the things you're going to see me cook with a lot is, it's not a spoon, it's flat. Okay, I don't use a spoon or big wooden spoon with dumplings because you'll mess them up. While they're cooking, you're going to have to be gentle with them or you'll break them all up, and that's not what we want to do. But this is my favorite one, and you can see it somehow got burnt. And I'm not sure how that happened, but somebody was in my kitchen cooking, and they left this somewhere it shouldn't have been. And if your household is like mine, and there's young, I call them kids, if they're in their 20s and they're kids, but it's, who did this? And everybody points at the other, but I still like it. Now, I'm gonna mix this flour around in here, and look at that. Now I'm gonna turn this down. Let's see if I can reach around here and see it. There we go. All right, put it there. All right, now we're gonna mix this flour up, because this flour, it wants to turn into little balls of dough. There's nothing else going in there until I have this flour here taken care of, because you won't be biting into dumplings, you'll be biting into flour balls. So we're gonna just kind of smush those little lumps of flour that we put in there. We're going to cook it down until there's no more in there. We are not going to have any of these little floating flour balls when we're done. And it heats up, it'll break them up. I kind of touch them against the sides. Now there's not going to be any of that in there. I'll strain them out if I have to with a little spoon with, holes in it, because that's just not, that's not dumplings there. That's little balls of flour. So if you don't learn anything else from this video, learn this. We're not cooking boiled biscuits, boiled tortilla shells, and we're not having balls of flour floating around in our chicken and dumplings. Some of you may think that was a joke about the fried chicken and the canned biscuits. It was true. I told my friend I would probably tell that story when I was making the dumplings video, and he thought it was funny. Of course, they're not together anymore. I don't even remember her name, and I don't think he does either. So we're not here to hurt anybody's feelings or embarrass them. This is just an anonymous person. And if you are watching and it was you, nobody knows I didn't say who you were. Okay. No people or animals were harmed in the production of this video. I don't know, there may be one animal harmed. She's just beside herself until she just went outside. Okay. All right. That little flapping noise will start going out her door. All right. Well, it doesn't look like we're going to have to get our little spoon and scoop any out. It looks like they pretty much have all disintegrated. Just a few little bitty ones. All right. Now that meat, this meat here is going in last. Because what will happen is there'll be too much stuff in here, and as we're putting the dumplings in there, they'll want to float on this meat, and they're not going to cook. So somebody is chasing a squirrel out there. I hear her barking. But anyway, the dumplings will just float around. They won't do it. So do not put that meat in, because it's a lot of meat. That is a whole chicken. So there's a squirrel out there that runs along our fence that just drives her about as crazy as me cooking this chicken does. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start putting these in there. Now you got to remember, this does seem like it might be a little thin, but you've got to realize this is flour, and some of this is going to come apart in there. Not really come apart, but the flour will. So this is going to thicken it up as well. Now the trick to putting this in there is we're going to take them one at a time. We're not going to pour them in there. You'll end up with a big ball of dough. So at this point, I want to turn this bad boy up a little bit. All right. See, I don't mind reaching around it. That's not as bad as being in front of it, doing this stuff and having to angle around the camera. I don't like this. So we're going to stake these just one at a time. We're just going to dump them in there. That's also a good way to cook French fries. You don't just dump the French fries in there. You kind of take them and kind of put them a little bit at a time, let them kind of cook. All right, this is our French fry video. All right, here we go. Just dumping them in there one at a time and in different places in the pot. And that's how we're going to do this. Well, it's starting to boil. This thing works really well. And you know, they're not sponsoring me. I'm not getting paid to say nice things about these people. I mean, what brand? Oh, I don't know if I should be saying name brands. I might get sued. Who knows? But I can tell you this: it's doing exactly what I wanted it. And I said for $12, it could have been 13, but real close, right up in there. If it didn't work, it wasn't no big loss. But if it did, and it did, it's great. So what I'm doing is I'm just steady dropping these in. Now, you folks in the future, if I'm dead and gone, and this is, I don't know, the way things are going, it could be next week, but in the future, y'all are not going to be able to buy this for $12. You might be able to buy it for $1,200. I feel so sorry for you. All right. Now, we just keep dropping them in. Go. I had an uncle tell me that he used to go to the, I think it was the movie theater. It may have been my mother told me that. Whoever it was, I think it was Mama. They could go to the movie theater with either a dime or a quarter, get in there, and buy popcorn and Coke and all that. Those days are gone too. Matter of fact, those days are long gone. Now I do remember my mother giving me a quarter, and I went into the gas station and she filled her little AMC Spirit up, or real close to it. So you got a couple of gallons of gas for sure with a quarter. So now it's not happening either. Now we've done put some in there, and what I want to do is just lightly move them around. I don't want it to stick. I just want to, because some of them sit on the bottom, and I'm just sort of moving around real gently. You don't want to stir them, or you'll have a mess on your hand. Let them cook a little bit, then you can stir them all you want. Here we go. And this is not a quick, fast thing. You just take your time. If it's worth cooking, it's worth taking your time. If you're in a big hurry and you don't have time to cook dumplings, don't cook dumplings. Cook something that's quicker. It's like people say, you know, I hate to do this to you, and then I just stop them. Stop doing what you hate. Don't do it. If you hate cooking in a rush, don't cook in a rush. Right. I cook when I have time, when I'm off. You won't see me getting dressed for work or getting dressed to go to town while I'm cooking. When I'm cooking, I'm cooking. And I love to cook. right, they're just kind of dropping in different places. As long as we keep this water just a low boil. Now I can see little bubbles coming up. I know that this stock is hot enough to cook these little dumplings. And somebody's back. Oh yeah, did you get the squirrel? Huh? Did you get the squirrel? I heard you out there hollering at somebody. Sometimes when we're on the phone, or like right now, and she knows there's no one else around and she hears us talking, I wonder what she's thinking. She either thinks we're talking to her. Hey. Oh, we've just lost our minds. You don't want a dumpling. No, you don't. Now, she has surprised me. I have been eating, and I know for a fact she would not want whatever I'm eating. So I'm just going to put a little bit in her little bowl, and she'll eat it. I'm trying to think of some examples that she has surprised me with. Rice and gravy. I was eating rice and gravy, and she was whining, and I said, okay. We'll put a little bit of rice and gravy in your little bitty bowl, and that's going to be the end of it. She ate it, and she wanted more. Stuff like that. But then there's stuff that I know she would eat, and I put it in her little bowl, and guess what? She turns her nose up and walks away. So she's not a food disposal. Right? Let me say that. She has to think she wants it. I could be cooking spaghetti right now, and she would just, she's down there pushing her bowl around. Yeah. But she smells the chicken. That is her weakness. She loves chicken. And we get her chicken treats and chicken flavored dog food, that kind of stuff. But I tell you, she is not, I'm her human. She's not my dog. She actually is my wife's. My wife wanted a Yorkie, and she is a full-blooded, registered chocolate Yorkie. But I said no. I don't want an animal in the house. That was me from the beginning. No animals in the house. Kids are bad enough. So, and I would bring excuses. Examples like, listen, would you want a horse in the house? Would that be okay? If I wanted a horse, you would say no. Because you can see how crazy that is. Well, I feel the same way about having a dog or a cat or anything in the house. This is where I live. I don't want a dog. She's in my kitchen right now. It's like, oh my God, this is horrible. Well, my wife wore me down. And I finally said, okay. Well, we got her. And she was this little bitty teeny thing. And she's now 4 years old. And we actually had to wait for her to wean off of her mama before we could take her. And over the years, she has become a member of this family, and she's no problem. She's I'm going to say this, she is cleaner than the kids were when they were growing up. How's that? She doesn't leave pizza on the side of the bed. No. She doesn't leave open Coke cans all over the room. No, she is way cleaner. All right, and she listens better. Oh my goodness. after you get older and you've raised all your kids and you need to get a puppy. All right, we have all of our dumplings in here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of move them around. I am not stirring these, I'm moving them. So we're just barely moving them, just kind of back and forth. I'm really just rubbing this spoon, this little flat part of the spoon. That's another reason I use this one. It's flat and I can go along the whole bottom of it just to make sure nothing's sticking. Because if the dumplings sit on the bottom and burn and you scrape one loose, your whole dumplings is going to taste burnt. It's not a burnt taste. So you just don't want to do that. The liquid's not going to burn. It's going to be the contents. And it can only burn if it sits on the bottom. So we want to make sure we're just moving it. Okay, now that's done. It's mixed all in there. They're cooking. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start slowly adding our chicken. And I'm not going to just dump it in there because I don't want this big ball going down on top of the dumpling. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of take it and I'm going to sprinkle it around in there. See, we're making dumplings. We're cooking. We're not throwing it together. We're doing it the right way. And this is an important part right here. Now, I've still got over a half a bowl in there. And I'm going to stir these around real gently. I just want to mix that meat in there all around. Now, I'll tell you something. This is really starting to look good. Tell you what, when these are on a plate with a big old slice of homemade cornbread right next to them, I'm telling you, that's some good eating. Alright, we have about a third of a bowl left in there. We're going to kind of, if you want to remember that, I'm putting it in about a third at a time, I guess. I wasn't doing that on purpose, but it just seems like that's the way it's working out. Oh yeah, this is, I'm telling you, this is looking so good. Sprinkle it all around in there. And that's the last of it. Now sometimes Prissy thinks she's a wolf, and she will attack you. She'll jump up and throw those little legs up on you just a barking if she's not getting her way, because she thinks she's a wolf. She don't know she's a little Yorkie. I saw a picture that was of the little Yorkie. It had a picture of Yorkie and it says, "The way we see her." And then they had a picture of Chewbacca from Star Wars, the way she sees herself. That was precious. Okay, now we have all of our ingredients in here. The dumplings are cooking. We can call this pretty much done. All right, now this is where it becomes a bit of personal preference. I'm going to zoom the camera in so you can see this. Okay, this is how thick it is. Okay, I'm not doing too good of a job at this, am I? I'm not sure really how to show you this. At this point, look at the dumplings, and if they're too thick, you can add a little water. If it's too thin and you want it thicker, add a little flour. A little flour will thicken it a lot. These are perfect. This juice here is really good. I don't think I'm going to do anything with this except eat it. This is perfect. Now here's another secret. ever how it is now, once it cools, it's going to get thicker. What's happening is these little dumplings, I'm turning these off, these little dumplings are going to sit and they're slowly going to let a little flour loose all in it, and it's going to get thicker. So you want it to be just a hair on the thin side, because you're not going to eat it right this second. It's just too hot. So you're going to let this cool. And by the time you eat it, it's going to be a lot thicker. So that's my tip to you. Let it be a little thinner than you would think, because that's perfect. You have it a little thin, and then as it cools, it'll thicken up. And even when you eat it, it's still going to be thicker. Now, I'm telling you, this is chicken and dumplings. And I've already sampled it off screen. It's perfect. I didn't add any more seasoning. I didn't add anything to the gravy. I just made it with the exact ingredients that you have at the end of this video. I'm going to get off camera and I'm going to slaughter. Oh, I wish I could have showed you the cornbread. We'll save that for another video. I just couldn't let it in like that. This is some of the best tasting dumplings you will ever eat. Oh my goodness.